Good evening, Shavua Tov, a good week. I'm Avram Shira in Gush Etzion. The back porch is lit up, and we're kind of watching the war from a distance. Really, we watch it very close on this screen of the phone, but you can hear all day what's kind of going on between the jets and the bombs and the intercepting missiles. It's after a while you get used to it, and you get to learn kind of subtleties of what's happening. Of course, it's all very vague from this distance, but I ask myself, why is God doing this? Because that's what everybody's asking me. Why is God doing this? And I was like, great, here it is. It's Gaza attacks us. We attack back. And why does God do this? What they really, I think, mean in a more subtle way is, why is God allowing this to happen? Why does God allow Putin to attack Ukraine and Xi to attack Taiwan and et cetera, all the tyrants? It's the season of the attack, right? Why? And why do I mean, I lived in America for 30 years, and I asked the question, why do I need to worry about what happens in Vietnam? Why do I need to worry about what happens in other places? Well, if my friends are going off to war, then it's a little more direct, a little more connected, right? But if you don't know anybody that's fighting in a war and it's in a foreign land, why do you have to choose sides? Well, it's a moral issue. Yes, it seems to be a moral issue here. Innocent civilians are attacked by marauders from all sections of the Palestinian society, not just Hamas. Now, they might not be telling you on your major news feed, but I had reports from eyewitnesses that civilians were pouring through the fence with weapons, with cameras. Children came. They went looking for things they could steal. It wasn't pretty, and this is not traditional warfare. This is a mass mob attack on a society. Okay, it's not good. We have to come out against it. And then all of a sudden, all these people that you might not hear from too often, come out in favor of Hamas. They're being interviewed. They're giving their opinion because the Israeli army has entered Gaza and is destroying buildings, and civilians are getting hurt and killed. Have you ever heard much about the hostages over there? Have you heard about the 226 people who are still held captive in those tunnels underground? Who knows what kind of conditions? Well, if you hear about them, then it makes you feel sorry for the Jewish side. If you hear about the poor Palestinians that don't have water, electric, you take on the Hamas Palestinian side. But anybody who lives any time, whether it's year or I've been here 26 years, living surrounded by Arabs, anybody knows that these distinctions are plays of words. The distinction between Hamas and Palestinian people. Of course, there is innocent Palestinian people, but of course, there's a lot of Palestinian people that are helping the Hamas cause. And then there's a lot of people that don't know what to do. There's people that want to run away that can't. There's people that want to run there to help. And that's just one pocket of Israel. In the central Israel and northern Israel, this situation is repeated in various forms over and over. But why does God want you, the basic average American, or South American, or African, or European, or Asian? Why does God want you to take sides? Why do you need to? That's the question that most people would ask, because it's not my fight for most of the 8 billion people on this planet. If it's not my fight, why do I have to take a side? Well, morally, I could say, they shouldn't do that. But if there's a mosque down the block from your house and you go there and say that, you're not going to get a passive, understanding response. And I wouldn't recommend that. Now, why do I have to take a side? Well, let's back the lens up to the idea, not the idea that God promised the Jews the state, or the Arabs have been here for a long time and they have their farms and their agrarian culture that's been here for maybe 1,000 years on and off of various concentrations of people, but they've been here a long time. Let's not go there. Let's go to the stated ambitions of Islam. Why does everybody seem to forget that Islam has a global domination policy and ambition? And yet they're smart enough to hide it a little bit. But even in the Jewish tradition, there's a tradition that Muslims will seek to rule the world. Okay, we've dealt with other tyrants. We know what world domination ambition looks like. You had it in Hitler, Yamach Shemo, in Germany. They wanted 1,000-year Reich. He thought he was going to be the Messiah of the world, Yamach Shemo, right? That this guy with his policies of German superiority is going to make himself into the Messiah. That's what he believed he was for the German people. Columbus thought he was the Messiah for the Anusim, for the people who were kicked out of Spain. And there's been so many people that have taken up the Messiah concept, the Messiah persona. I'm going to save my people. I'm sure Ho Chi Minh was the Messiah of Vietnam, and I'm sure Mao Zedong thought he was the Messiah of China. And in a certain way, they were. They did a job that needed to be done for a certain group of people. And now Islam comes along on the stage. They've got the money. They've got the iron fist on their societies. And whether they're Sunni or Shia, whether they're wealthier or poorer, whether they have oil or not, they still have a stated unified ambition. And so whether you're a Palestinian or you're Hamas is the military arm of that ambition. And the civilians are the ones who generate income and give, whether willingly or not, are forced to give to that cause. And I've sat and had coffee with a lot of Arabs and talked about these ideas, and they're pretty straight up with you when you're straight up with them. They don't like secular society. They don't like the promiscuity that they see in the Western world. What they do in their own time and space and place is, of course, not part of the discussion. For them, having several wives is not a problem. They ask me, Avram, why don't you have more wives? I'm saying, are you kidding? Are you kidding? One wife is plenty. It's good. But when you treat your women differently, maybe it's a little different. Let's not go there, right? Polygamy, that's another subject for another talk. But the point, why choose sides if I'm American or if I'm European or African? Understand there is a real agenda behind all of this. Now, there are a lot of powerful people in the world that would laugh. Islam's going to take over the world. Islam, there's not too many Islamic countries that have nuclear weapons. I think the first one that comes to mind is Pakistan. And I can't even think of another one off the top of my head. We know that Saudi Arabia recently asked America for a nuclear technology to build a defense against Persia, against Iran. And in our previous talk from last week, we mentioned that the prophecy in the Midrash says that the king of Arabia will make war with the king of Persia. That's Saudi Arabia, that's Iran, that's coming to a theater near you. And it says that the king of Saudi will go to America to Edom, the Roman extraction of the original brother of Jacob. Go to him and look for an advice. What kind of advice do you look for when you feel like you're under nuclear danger or threat? You think they're asking for advice how to improve their economy, how to desalinate water, how to, reinvent the wheel? No, they're going to be asking for advice from America what to do when Persia's threatening, Iran is threatening with nuclear weapons. And that's going to mean we need nuclear weapons too, just like Israel does. And they even said, if you give us that, we'll make peace with the Israelis. Interesting trade, right? Because they're Islamic, and the Quran tells them that they will dominate the world because we're the infidel. Even though the Quran does say several places that the Jewish people were chosen by God and this land is theirs. They have that written in their book. I just don't think that Hamas reads that book too often, at least those sections. But understand why you and your nice little armchair, on Saturday night are hearing from me that you have to choose between this side or that side. Well, do you think they're going to take you over? Do you think that Islam is going to take over America with planes and guns and bombs? No. They're going to take over America like they have everywhere other country that they go to, through population dispersion, through cultural influence, seat by seat in every House of Representatives, every Senate, every court. Do you know how many people, America, that Obama placed into office who were Islamic? Type that into Google. I'm not sure that this statistic is out there, but check it out. These countries, these people are not dumb. They're smart, and they don't want a confrontational frontal war. The war is from within. And if enough Islamic people not that they're bad people. On the surface, they look like pretty good people. They're nice. You can sit, talk to them. You can, do various things. Maybe you want to go over there during Ramadan. I'm not sure. When they fast all day, they usually get in a bad mood before they eat at night. But do you really think they're going to surrender the inner ambition for their external friendship to the West? Do you think they're going to back down from the idea of Islamic global domination because they're friends down the block in your neighborhood in 50 states of America? And God's saying, choose now. Because if you choose me, and that means you choose the Jewish people. And if you choose me, and you choose the Jewish people, then you're going to have an access to understanding a deeper vision of the conflict. A broader, more inclusive perspective of what's happening. And all the people who choose Hamas because in their stomach they feel bad for those people and they have this sympathy because they've been fed one-sided news for so long, they don't know what real news is. Those folks will not have any problem because they're not going to believe that Islam is out to dominate the world. They're not going to believe that Islam's going to try to... You know how many mayors they have of the major cities of England? Now, England, compared to America, is still a small country. Physically, in terms of the landmass, and also in terms of the numbers of people. England is like a sixth of the size of America. 6 Englands in America. 10 major mayors. The mayor of London, the mayor of Birmingham. I'm not going to go through the whole list. I don't know it by heart. I'm not going to learn it by heart. I don't need to. I see the trend. And you look at the numbers of people that are Arabs that are in all the European countries. It's way down the river in Europe. And with global communications, how hard will it be for Islamic militants to do what they did in Israel on October 7th? how hard will it be to do elsewhere? In more lenient countries than Israel. Oh, come on, Avram, that's not going to happen. Come on, Avram, you're crazy. You're reading it into it. You're too religious. You're too Jewish centric. You know why? There's a statement of Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna, a great master from about 300 years ago. He said, everything God does is for the Jews. Now, if you haven't heard, and when I first heard that, I was secular. I said, what? That is the most egocentric statement I can imagine. That everything that God does is for the Jews? What about the poor fisherman in the South Pacific? He needs to catch dinner. No, God takes care of everybody. When he said that everything that God does, it does for the Jews, it's because the Jews, well, they carry his name and God's reputation is what he's selling here. God doesn't need planet Earth. God has the whole universe. Planet Earth is an experiment to create an image of God in man. Planet Earth is an attempt for God to reveal himself at the lowest level of physicality to connect the highest level of spirituality. And the Jewish people are given the tough job of carrying that message around for 3,500, 4,000 years, wherever you want to measure from Abraham or from Moses or for King David or the death of another false Messiah. It's the same message. But the message has been covered over, just like Islam wants to cover over the fact that they really have intention on taking over the world through Islam, but from within. And then this book called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion was this attempt to accuse the Jews of the same thing. Like the Jewish people, this little tiny people with a state about the size of New Jersey, we're going to take over the world. We barely have enough people to populate this country. And there's lots of open spaces for those of you who want to come and throw down the money and buy a condo. No, the Jewish people are not going to take over the world. And God doesn't promise the Jewish people they're going to take over the world in the Torah. God promises the Jewish people you will be allowed to leshevet, lishkon b'shetket, to sit and dwell in peace and learn my Torah and become high spiritual beings like we were supposed to be. We were actually in the garden. That Adam was before they took the wrong advice. That's the promise we're looking for. We don't need to dominate other people. When you have the king of the universe on your side, why would I want to dominate anybody? I don't want to dominate my family. I have an opinion on things. I give my opinion. Sometimes it's listened to. Sometimes it's not listened to. I haven't taken statistics on how often that happens. L'chaim. My friends, I grew up with Christians. I grew up with non-Jews. I love Jews. I love non-Jews. And I'm every day I'm on the phone with my clients, and everybody's asking these questions. What am I going to do? What am I going to tell them? Stay in America until it's overrun with Muslims and with terrorists, and the Texas border becomes an international crossing? We've got to speak the truth. Rabbi Nachman says the essential way that the fall of evil takes place is through revealing the truth, meaning it's not a war anymore of guns. It is a war of words, a war of truth versus falsehood, and every person out there has to choose. Whether you're the most educated person sitting in your office in Oxford, or you're a simple person sitting on the docks in Shanghai. Doesn't matter. You're going to have to choose. And if you don't choose from your heart, listen closely. If you don't choose from your heart, it will be chosen for you. because that's the nature of evil. Your passivity is already a vote. I hope my words enter your heart, because I prayed before this talk that God's words would enter my heart. Who am I? I'm just another voice. And all of you have a voice. And if I was a non-Jew in America and there's a mosque going in down the street, I'd be really questioning why. And you say, that's racist, Avram. You're anti-Arab. I'm not anti-Arab. I'm anti-terror. And I'm anti any religion that promulgates the idea of world domination. We don't need world domination. We have a king. We have a God. We have a system. We have a Bible. We have the laws. We have hundreds of thousands of books written about these laws so that every person can find his place in the Torah. From the most religious, you want to be more religious than God, go ahead, give it a shot. And you don't want to be religious at all, but you just like this kind of idea of Shabbat. I like the one day off from work. I can sit home with my family and enjoy, what am I working for all week, except to sit home and enjoy my family and what little I can build here. Now, you can say, well, there's plenty of wonderful Muslims. You know what? I'm sure there are. I'm positive there are. I've met many. But who they're listening to, and who will knock on their doors in the middle of the night, and who will ring their WhatsApp to tell them it's time to make a move like they did last October 7th. That's going to be a big test for that good Muslim. Am I going to listen to the Imam? Am I going to listen to the Muazzin? Am I going to listen to the Caliph? Am I going to listen to the Ayatollah? When it's time in your little town, in your little village, or on a street in Fifth Avenue? Well, when the mayor's already Muslim and the council's full of Muslims, there's no fight, it's over. Now, look, you can say, fine, I don't care, I'll be a Muslim, or I'll be Muslim friendly. Okay, that also is a choice. But make sure you're ready and you understand the questions that go with that choice and the results, the answers that you'll get. The Muslims here, I know, tell me the same thing over and over. We don't want a two-state solution because we have a better life under the Jews. But nobody in the world media ever says that. Ever. And I was going to say I would scream, but I don't need to scream anymore. We have big enough microphones out there in the world. If the Muslims don't want a two-state solution, why are the other big powers in the world, the EU, the United States, why are they pushing for two-state solution when the Arabs themselves don't want it? Why? And I'll tell you why. Because the Christians do. Because the Christians, through proxy of the Arabs, want hold of East Jerusalem. Because they know their false Messiah cannot come unless they have a hold of Jerusalem. You heard it. I said it. I think it's enough for now. We'll continue again, perhaps tomorrow, the next day. But these ideas, they might rub you the wrong way, but let them sink in and know I have no agenda except to try to speak the truth as it flies around in this crazy, chaotic universe, which really has a very secret, orderly fashion if you understand the inside. God bless you all. Have a great week. We'll be here again for you. All the best.